All right, guys, let's talk about probability. So probability in math is when we figure out how likely something is to happen. It could be very likely to happen, or it could be not very likely, almost impossible. So I want to talk about some of those words I just said and really define them for you, because there's some vocabulary we use to talk about probability. So there is the word impossible. If something is impossible, there is a 0% chance of it happening. It's not going to happen. It can't happen. So if it's 90 degrees outside, it's going to be impossible that it snows. It just can't happen. That's an impossibility. Then there is unlikely. Unlikely means there's a really small chance it might happen, but it probably will not happen. Oh, not small change, small chance. Small chance it will happen. So if I said I went to a job interview and it went really, really bad, I don't think they liked me, and I accidentally spilt coffee all over the interviewer's shoes, it is unlikely that I will get that job. It could still happen. It's not impossible. They do have a choice to make, but based on how that interview went, it is unlikely that I'll get that job. Then there's when things have an even chance. Sometimes we call this a 50-50 chance. One of the most used examples of this is a coin. So a coin has heads or tails. If you flip a coin, there's a 50-50 chance that you are going to land on one of those sides. So that's an even chance. A lot of times when we think of things being even or a 50-50 chance, we think of something being fair. There is just as much a chance of something happening for you as something happening for somebody else. All right, then we have very likely. Very likely is a good chance, but it's not certain yet. It's not 100%. It just is probably going to happen. So typically when we say that word probably, we mean very likely. There's a good chance something will happen. So if there's 12 inches of snow on the ground, it is very likely that school will be canceled tomorrow. Now, there could be a heat wave that comes through, a really warm day, and all that snow melts. That could happen, but it is very likely that we will not have school tomorrow because of the 12 inches of snow on the ground. And then there is certain. And certain is the opposite of impossible. It means there's a 100% chance it absolutely will happen. And so if I have 10 red marbles in a bag, it is certain that when I pull one of those marbles out, it will be red. There's no other marbles in the bag. The only option it can be is red. It's a 100% chance. It's certain. So before I show you some probability examples, I want to talk really quickly about 3 things that come up a lot in probability that I want you to be reminded of. So a lot of times in probability, they use the example of a dice. So a dice is a cube. Looks like this. Ooh. And it has 6 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when you think of a dice, I need you to remember that number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also, sometimes they use different language to talk about a dice, and they will call it a number cube in a word problem. It's the same thing. A number cube and a dice are the same thing. So it has 6 sides. So if they're talking about the probability of rolling something using a dice, I need you to remember that there are 6 numbers, 6 sides on that dice. We already talked about coins, but I just want you to remember coins have 2 sides. So you need to remember the number 2. It has heads and tails. And then when they say this phrase, multiple of, so let's say they say multiple of 3. What you need to do when they say multiple of and a number is you need to list the multiplication tables of that number. So 3, I do 3, 6, 9, 12. And you might not have to list all of it based on what they're asking, but when it says multiple of, you need to list the multiplication tables and see which ones that match. That will make more sense as we get into exact problems. But when you see multiple of, know that you have to list multiplication tables. All right, the next video I'll have some examples of probability problems. So look for that if you need some specific examples worked out.